PASS is a community like no other, born out of a passion for sharing knowledge. We realize that together, we can achieve more. For almost 2 decades, data professionals like you have gathered around the world to connect, share, and learn, helping each other navigate a rapidly changing data landscape. From machine learning to enhancements in security and cloud technologies, you are the pioneers at the forefront of innovation. As we get ready for our 20th PASS Summit, we celebrate you, the changemakers, for always pushing our industry forward. It's time for the next evolution in your data journey. This is your community. This is your event. This is PASS Summit V20.
Please welcome PASS President Grant Fritchie.
Good morning. Okay, so that was the beta. Let's do a release version. Good morning. Excellent. All right, much better. I think some of you were out at the V20 celebrations last night. I'm excited and honored to be welcoming you to PASS Summit V20. This is our 20th summit. Can you believe it? For almost 20 years, our community has gathered around the world to connect, share, and learn, supporting each other through every step of our data careers. The reason we're all here today is because of you. So thank you for 20 summits. It's your countless hours of volunteering, commitment, and dedication that define our community. Can you please give yourselves a huge round of applause? Now, in the months leading up to PASS Summit V20, we wanted to do something a little different. So we shared 20 stories over 20 summits to exemplify the spirit of PASS. And we've heard stories about finding and holding on to inspiration when you least expect it, showing gratitude to our veterans by handing out special thank you ribbons, and life-changing experiences right here at this event. It's all these reasons and more that make me so proud to be a part of this community. You'll also notice that we've only posted 19 stories. That's on purpose. We want this to be your next story, one that each and every one of you are sharing right here, right now. We want you to meet your data hero, start a new tradition, and make this PASS Summit V20 one to remember. If you haven't already read these stories, please go check them out. Now, as well as welcoming everyone here today, I'd also like to give you a special shout out to everyone at home watching on PASS TV. We've had tons of amazing content streaming to you live over the next 3 days, so please stay tuned. We also have first-timers in the room today. Can I get a round of applause for the first-timers? Thank you, thank you. For so many of you, this is your first event. And to all our alumni, make sure you show them the ropes. Let them know what PASS Summit is all about. And we have an action-packed schedule ahead of us this week, and you won't want to miss anything. So make sure you've got notifications enabled on your PASS Events app so you can get any kind of schedule changes in real time. Now also, you can submit session evaluations through the PASS Summit app, or you can go to passsummit.com, or you can scan the QR codes that are displayed outside of each session. Please take a moment to do this. Your feedback is invaluable in helping us build the best programs we can each year. While you're in between sessions, make sure you stop off at the exhibitor hall. We have lots of awesome partners and sponsors attending this year, so start some conversations. Get to know them. They want to learn about your issues and how their products and services can help you. I'd also like to give a special thank you to our premier sponsor and partner, Microsoft, our platinum sponsor, Quest, and our gold sponsors, AWS, Redgate, and SentryOne. Their sponsorship makes this event possible. Yeah, sure. As a founding partner, Microsoft has been with PASS for every summit. Now, Microsoft is hosting the Data Clinic again this year. You can go and connect with the engineers building the data platforms that we all use and love. This only happens at PASS Summit. I'd also like to thank our Global Alliance and Knowledge partners for their ongoing commitment to PASS throughout the year. Their support helps us keep you up to date with the latest developments in our industry and keeps our organization running year-round. I am pleased today to announce that voting for PASS directors opens. Now, before you all log onto the Wi-Fi and crash it, we'll be sending out an email later this afternoon when balloting actually opens. I do encourage all of you to cast your votes, have a voice in the future of PASS. Voting's easy. Log into your MyPass account before November 13th. Vote Now button will appear. All the eligible voters who've completed their PASS profile before June 1st. You can get to know the candidates better by talking to them here on site or watching their interviews on PASS TV. And to all our candidates, thank you. I also want to give a very special thank you right here to our outgoing board members, Alan White, Chris Woodruff, and Eduardo Castro. Please give them a round of applause. Thanks to your support, PASS has continued to grow our audience diversity, engage with global members, and ensure that the PASS program supports the best content for data professionals. Thank you for your countless hours of work and dedication to the PASS community. Now, PASS wouldn't be here without the help of our volunteers. It's thanks to all of you that PASS can provide educational content and networking opportunities to more than 300,000 people, data professionals, almost the same, in 100 countries around the world. Each month, we like to recognize these efforts by presenting an Outstanding Volunteer Award to a community member who has given up their time as an event organizer, a speaker, a moderator, or just lending a helping hand so that we can all have access to the great content that PASS has to offer. I sincerely thank you for all you do for PASS. Now, every year, we single out one, we shine the spotlight on one particular member of the community who has truly gone above and beyond to exemplify the spirit of PASS. Now, this year's Passion Award winner has served as a leader and organizer across local groups, virtual groups, and SQL Saturday events. He's helped foster data community in his local Johannesburg and has expanded his group's reach to Cape Town and Durban. He's maintained his MVP status while running his own consultancy business and still makes time to assist his fellow data professionals. For his many hours of service to PASS and the data community, I'm honored to present the 2018 Passion Award to Michael Johnson. Good job. Thank you. Excellent. Great job. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. As we get ready for the next 3 days, I encourage all of you to not only attend sessions, but to make the most out of your PASS Summit experience by showing up at the networking events. Make connections. You never know where the new connections are going to take you. Get out there, get involved, have a great week. So, without further ado, I'd like to welcome Corporate Vice President of Azure Data, Rohan Kumar. Rohan is the engineering leader responsible for the data strategy and long-term vision of SQL Server and Azure Data Services, and will be demonstrating the latest advances from Microsoft. Thank you.
The first planning meeting was pretty exciting because everybody there was excited about this product, excited about starting a group, excited about having a conference.
My first pass was 1999. I remember black and white PowerPoint slides. We didn't have color PowerPoint slides back then, right?
The memories that people have from the events are the personal stories when you get to meet people.
Just the camaraderie and the fact that I could actually talk to all these various people that did the same kinds of things I did.
Back at that first conference, one of the big things to come out of that was the sense of community. It was all about bringing people in.
Hey, SQL Server!
This event is for the community. It is a community-driven event. The community runs it.
That probably was where the whole SQL community, the concept of SQL family got started.
With Pass, what you learn today, you can use tomorrow.
I learn something every single time I come to this event.
But the best part of this event is meeting people one-on-one. Somebody coming up to you and say, I saw your session yesterday. It was really amazing. You just made my conference.
Mark Souza set up this clinic, and that's a huge opportunity for everyone to bring their hardest problem. That's a really cool opportunity to interact with customers.
A lot of people walk away with answers to problems they've been struggling with. Back in the early days, it's a relational database engine. And as the product has morphed on, we, of course, have tried to figure out how do we make this a platform.
Customers drive everything that we do. And when we go look at how we built SQL and Linux, that was responding to demand. When we look at big data clusters, all of that is customer-driven feedback, and it's how we build the product now. Past attendees are the people that come and help us learn how to make the next version of SQL great.
There's a lot of fun things that happen at Pass. They usually tend to involve adult beverages of some sort. Either we'll go out to the karaoke bars, we'll go out to the tap house. There's a lot of ways that we can, just hang out with friends. If you're sitting in your hotel room, you're probably doing the conference wrong.
Please welcome to the stage Rohan Kumar.
All right. I need to figure out how to get invited to that party Danny was talking about. I'm sure Mark Souza had something to do with that. Well, good morning and welcome, everyone. My name is Rohan Kumar, and I'm the Corporate Vice President of Microsoft's Azure Data Business and a SQL-loving developer at heart. We have a lot to celebrate today. It's not just the 20th gathering of the PaaS community. It is also the 25th anniversary of SQL Server. Over the last 20 years, the PaaS community has been instrumental in helping us reimagine the realm of possibilities. And from all the capabilities that we've shipped in the various versions of SQL Server, to actually making an offering of a fully managed service of SQL Server in Azure, to all our Azure data services, the tooling investments, and everything in between, we've relied on your feedback to actually go innovate and help you stay ahead. We've also aligned our product strategy to the latest innovation in hardware trends, data, analytics, and artificial intelligence, so you get the most out of the investments you've made and the skills you've invested building in for the last several years. So thank you. Thank you so much, right from the bottom of my heart, for this excellent partnership that we've had with the community, which has really helped where we are today. And here's hoping for an even better, brighter, and a stronger future together. Thank you so much. A lot has changed over the last 25 years. There's been some huge improvements, big changes. But in my opinion, one of the most important ones has been the role Azure has played in significantly increasing the pace of innovation by helping us deeply understand how our customers are using our products and services in near real time. We are using this feedback that we're getting from Azure to constantly improve, react to the feedback, shorten the engineering cycles, in many cases from years to months and even days. We're using Azure to actually innovate across our hybrid data platform. So the innovations and the capabilities that come out every few years, months, and even days can be deployed on premises, in private data centers, or in the public cloud. When we sort of do a survey of our customers, more than 80% of them have a hybrid data platform deployment. About 99% of them, and this is pretty amazing, are actually extremely satisfied with their hybrid data strategy. They believe they need it. And this data essentially is confirmed based on the conversations we've had with thousands of our customers over the last 8 to 10 years, where they're very clear that there's a certain amount of data, certain applications that they have will continue to remain on-prem for the foreseeable future. They're investing in the cloud where some amount of new data that's getting produced, so they're migrating some of the applications, and they're moving that to the public cloud. But hybrid is the way of the future. And this is exactly how it should be. Every customer, as they're going through their digital transformation, has a unique journey, the way we've experienced it. Right? They get to decide which applications remain on-prem or hosted in a private environment, and which applications and data moves to the cloud. Our goal as the ones who build the Microsoft Data Platform is to make sure that the data is managed. We have the tools in the platform that allows you to manage your data and optimize your applications so you get the most consistent experience wherever you happen to deploy your applications and data. And this seems to be going really well, right? Like I mentioned, hybrid data deployments have really spiked up over the last few years. And we've worked really hard to make sure that the Microsoft Data Platform is 100% ready for your hybrid scenarios. For the rest of the talk, we're going to be spending a lot of time talking about the innovations and the new capabilities we are adding to the Microsoft Data Platform to ensure that you stay ahead of your competition. Capabilities which allow you to join or merge your data, your customer data that's stored in your private data centers, with real-time transactions that are happening a couple of continents away, or merge your data with a device that's emitting signals in an oil rig somewhere in the middle of the ocean. These are real-world customer deployments. We are also investing in extensive tooling that allows you to modernize your applications and your data platform in a very, very seamless and easy manner. Together, these enhancements and the tooling that's built around it to make the job easier really make it an excellent hybrid data platform. And finally, AI. As we look at the future, hybrid is the true conduit to enable digital transformations. Because when you think about it, when the intelligence that's getting built, the AI systems that are getting built, are only as good as the data that's available to them to train their models. We're using a lot of our customers, we are actually seeing a lot of our customers use AI to transform their business. It sort of falls into 4 key scenarios. We see our customers use AI to actually empower their employees with the best tools that they can get to be the best at their jobs. They're using AI to deeply engage with their customers, understand their requirements, and stay ahead of what they might need. They're using AI to actually build new and better products that meet the needs of their customers. And finally, they're using AI to actually enhance their operations, become a lot more agile, become a lot more efficient, while reducing their costs significantly. It's sort of becoming a very, very common way in which business transformations are happening. But the core and the most important part to understand is that it starts with a modern data platform. It's very, very critical to build and train your models on data that spans your entire hybrid data estate. And that's what we are trying to enable with the Microsoft Data Platform. All right. Before we really get into the meat of the presentation, SQL Server 2008 and 2008 R2 are sort of reaching end of support in the next 12 months. And I'm sure, as we've sort of discussed with several of our customers, you have that where to go next on top of your mind. In the discussions that we've had with our customers, everyone's expecting a choice, just based on the hybrid thing that we spoke about. There are lots of our customers who say, look, I just want to keep my systems on-premise and modernize. We have an excellent solution for you, SQL Server 2017. It's a fantastic product. And for those customers who are ready to move to the cloud, modernize to the cloud, and migrate, we recently announced the general availability of Azure SQL Database Managed Instance. That, coupled with the database migration service, is the best choice to modernize your SQL Server workloads. It's 2 great options if you want to modernize. All right. Now, sort of getting into the product strategy part. Over the last few months, we've really spent a lot of time looking at the customer priorities that are driving the steps that they're taking and the customers are taking to modernize. It sort of boils down to 4 key pillars. And these really are the anchor frame of how we think about investing on the Azure Data Platform side. The first one is actually pretty straightforward. It's really about modernizing on-premises. So a lot of our customers who have SQL Server deployments are looking into going to the next state-of-art modern platform of SQL Server. Then there are lots of our customers who basically are looking at this opportunity of modernizing to sort of move to the cloud, right? And one of the big reasons they're doing this is to save on costs when it comes to things like manageability. A lot of the managed services that we've built for operational data services, decision support, analytics, data warehousing, et cetera, significantly reduce the cost that's needed to manage these systems. And in a lot of cases, if you look at the enterprises, a lot of the tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 systems really don't have good administration, just because it's pretty expensive to do that, right? So the story is landing really well in terms of modernizing to the cloud. The third one is really around building cloud-native applications. So these applications just are not possible to build on premises because you don't have the reach across the world, which public cloud enables. We are seeing a lot of growth happening in this area. In fact, some of the largest applications that we see are being built on the third pillar. And finally, unlocking insights. And very concretely, what's happening is we have customers who are looking at their enterprise data warehouse. For every enterprise, that's like the heart of how their businesses run, and they're looking to modernize that, especially to do predictive analytics and AI, where the kind of compute power you need to sort of train the model, it's only cost-effective if that's in the cloud, right? So these are the 4 pillars. And of course, hybrid's a key theme. And when we talk about AI, it's not a separate thing. You know, when we look at AI as a part of the Microsoft Data Platform, it's an inherent capability. It's just an expectation that exists as far as we are concerned to satisfy the customer requirements. All right, so getting into the first pillar of modernizing on-premises. We recently announced the first public preview of SQL Server 2019. It's a huge step forward. You know, SQL Server was always very successful in running and managing all kinds of your data challenges. The one area that we had a glaring gap was around big data, which sort of has become super popular, these data lakes and big data systems in the last few years. And our customers were asking us, look, we've invested in building up expertise around SQL, right? These big data systems are hard to manage. Why can't you extend the reach of SQL Server to manage these data lakes? And that's exactly what we did with SQL Server 2019. So as you can see, with SQL Server 2019, you have your favorite T-SQL system, and it also supports Spark and HDFS natively. We've extended the choice of the language that we support as a part of the platform. So, of course, you have T-SQL. We've always supported Node, Python. But we now support Scala and Java natively with SQL Server 2019. And these languages are becoming extremely popular with the developers to sort of build more modern and new class of intelligent applications. Our industry-leading performance, which we've achieved for the last several releases of SQL Server, will continue with SQL Server 2019 when it comes to the standard benchmarks as measured by TPC and TPCH. We continue to be the most secure database, over the last 8 years as measured by the National Institute of Standards and Technology, where they look at security bugs that are found across various products. SQL Server has the minimum number of bugs by any measure. And finally, we continue to invest in making Power BI be an excellent choice for tooling, for doing visualization, reporting, and such. And you'll hear a little bit about that in the keynote. All of this at the 10th of the cost of Oracle and consistency of the data platform that we've spoken about. Now let's get into the specifics of what is there in SQL Server 2019. There are 4 pillars, and we've been very consistent about it for the last several releases. We've huge investments in the mission-critical pillar to make sure that you can run your largest and the most mission-critical applications on SQL Server. One of the features that I'm pretty excited about is the automated query tuning, where effectively the system, based on intelligent query processing, recognizes how to tune your queries in real time, right? So this is, you can imagine, very, very critical for very long-running analytic queries. On the security and compliance side, we took a huge step forward when we shipped Always Encrypted as a part of SQL Server 2016. It's been, the customer feedback has been actually amazing because your data remains encrypted, not just on disk, but in the buffer pool and on the wire. One of the big pieces of feedback we heard was the operator support on Always Encrypted was limited. We only supported equality. And for some of the complex applications, the feedback was to increase that. Now, we wanted to do that. One of the reasons is we wanted to go ahead and, while we wanted to go increase the amount of operators that we supported, we didn't want to compromise on the basic promise of Always Encrypted, because then that would defeat the purpose, right? So we've actually spent a lot of time working with Microsoft Research and relying on features like secure enclaves that have come in Windows. So it's been a joint partnership across Research, Windows, and SQL to ship the next version of Always Encrypted. It's huge from a security standpoint, and I'd highly recommend that you check that out. And in the management and development, like I said, Java alongside of T-SQL is going to be a natively supported language. Again, this is essentially based on, for some of you may remember, the extensibility architecture that we shipped with SQL Server 2016, which enabled us to run R and Python code. And basically, we keep extending that, we keep modifying it to include even a general purpose language like Java to sort of run natively on the data that's stored in SQL Server. We believe this is going to be huge for the ISV community because you can write applications in Java and not worry about security, compliance, resource governance. Everything is taken care of for you. And finally, the new pillar that we are adding with SQL Server 2019, which is big data and analytics. One single biggest thing to sort of take away is now with just SQL Server, with your existing skills and the investments that you've made, you can manage data lakes. We support HDFS natively. The formats like Parquet are natively understood now by a big data cluster that runs SQL Server. And I'll get a little bit more into it, but it's huge. There's just a lot more innovation that as you go into more of the deeper sessions around SQL 19, you'll hear about. But it's super exciting. With that, today I'm really excited to announce the release of CDP 2.1. And an interesting thing to note is that now that we've gone public with SQL Server 2019, you'll see us release, our goal is to release a CDP every month to react to the feedback that we're getting. This is one of the points that I was making initially of how Azure is helping us get significant feedback on a constant basis. And so please engage in these monthly CDPs and give us feedback. We really want to make this the best SQL Server that we ever shipped. You can look at a few features that are coming in, and you'll have this trickle effect that'll happen every month, like scalar UDF inlining, performance of scalar UDFs. This is something that the community has spoken to us a lot about. And by inlining them, we're seeing some pretty significant gains. Again, improved diagnostic of long-running queries. It's a huge problem when you run a query for a very, very long time, and you really don't have the depths of debugging knowledge to understand where the problem is. We're fixing that. Deploying R and Python. The point here, and you'd see like with every month we're going to release value. And the thing to note is if you went back a few years, this wasn't the pace at which we were innovating, right? That's key. I think the feedback that we're getting that's helping us innovate so quickly is remarkable to see. All right. To basically understand how, at least from a performance and scalability standpoint, the kind of feature sets and the kind of difference we're making, please help join me in inviting Bob and Connor to do their Bob and Connor show on stage. Hey, guys.
Hey, Rohan.
Hey, Rohan. How are you doing?
How are you guys?
So last year we came out with Cowboys jerseys and tried to get you to join the Cowboys Nation. And since then, the Seahawks, I believe, have beat the Cowboys twice.
Twice, yes, unfortunately.
So we thought this year we would have a better plan. We're going to try to get you to become a Dallas Mavericks fan because there is no basketball team in Seattle.
That's right.
We can't lose.
Thank you.
Officially adopted a Mavericks fan.
Take it away, guys.
Thanks, Ron. Thanks. So, Connor, we're back again.
Yes, sir.
As you know, I always like to push the performance limits of SQL Server. And I've got a workload using temp tables that I expect to be very scalable. But I have a problem, kind of a bottleneck problem. And the reason I expect it to be scalable is because our friends at Dell have given me their new PowerEdge R940 server, lots of cores, lots of memory, lots of fast drives. And I expect this workload to be very scalable, but I got a bottleneck problem. In fact, this Dell server, they've used to publish the first 200 terabyte fast track architecture. So this workload should fly, but I'm not seeing that. So let me show you, Connor, a little bit what this workload looks like. So I'm going to kick it off here. Let's see. And I use Perfmon to kind of look at these scalability workloads, and I look at Perfmon, and in the blue, you see processor time is very low, and I'm very disappointed by that because I want it to be scalable. I expect that to be off the charts. Batch requests per second is kind of low, and then look at the red. That's the biggest problem I have, where you can see page latch waits is something like 600,000 per second. That probably is the bottleneck I'm having. And because of the fact this is a tempdb type workload, it's probably like some sort of tempdb file problem, right?
Let's slow down just a little bit, Bob. Let me put on the Bob translator because it's early in the morning. Ultimately, page latches are a mechanism we have in the server to make sure that two threads can't modify the same piece of memory at the same time. So it's a safety measure. And whenever we see contention on that, it's often because tempdb allocations are happening. You're trying to insert lots of rows in the same temp table, allocating pages. So what did you find?
Well, the deal is that as you said, tempdb file allocation pages are normally a problem. It's a common thing people have to look at. SQL Server actually auto-configures now the number of files for tempdb, and in this particular case, that's not my problem. So Connor, we actually have some new functionality in SQL 19 where we can crack a page. We can take an actual page and tell you the object that page belongs to.
Useful.
And if you look at this result set here, you can see for tempdb, the actual object is a system table. But as a developer, there's no such thing as a latch hint. I have no control over the access to this system table, so that's a little bit of a problem.
Right, so what you're doing here is you're creating a whole bunch of temp tables for multiple threads. And then inserting into the system tables the actual contention point.
That's the problem, and as an app developer, I have no control over this, right? In fact, if you go back over here, you can see this workload took about like a minute, right?
So, Bob, what if I told you I could make the page latches go away?
That would be nice, yes.
So while you weren't looking, I went and put another version of the server there. So
let's see, what's that now? Okay, so if I look here, there's actually a start SQL Connor fix file. Okay, that's interesting.
Why don't we try that?
Let me try that one. Okay, I'll kick that off. So it's restarting SQL Server. I guess you put a new build on here for me.
Yes, you're welcome.
Okay, thank you. So I'll try again my temp stress workload. And let's go see what Perfmon looks like. Much better. Look at processor time. Something like 80% batch requests per second, at least 2x faster. And look, there's no page latch waits, like nothing happening right here.
Yeah, this is just a prototype. And ultimately, we did some work, so this is not tuned yet, but ultimately we've done a lot of neat pieces here to make this go faster.
And look at that, it's almost finishing now, right?
And ultimately, we just took out the page latches, and now you have basically the in-memory technology from Hackathon that we've shipped in earlier versions of SQL. We went and replaced some system tables with that, and now you don't have contention anymore.
Wait a minute. So actually what we did internally is implement the system table as a Hackathon table.
Yes.
And as an app developer, I have to make no changes, and I get no page latch waits in tempdb anymore. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Okay, that's very nice. Yeah, cool. That's great technology, great innovation. Hey, Rohan, what do you think, man?
When did we move tempd to Hackathon? I thought that wasn't a part of this release.
Yeah, so it's not in 2.1, but it will be in SQL Server 2019. So now you know.
Now there's your notification.
It's fantastic. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Rohan. Appreciate it. Thank you.
It's always fun. It's always fun to learn something in your own keynote. By the way, I don't know, when we let me see if I can go back for a second here. Some of you may have missed this, but one of the new features that we are adding as a part of the management and development pillar is string truncation error message with context. So I was told, clearly it is super complicated because it took us maybe more than 15 years to get this right. But I hope that's a good enough reason for several of you to upgrade to SQL 19. Anyway, great job, Bob and Connor. Thank you. So moving on. Another very real customer problem that we're trying to address with SQL Server 2019 is this notion of data silos. We took an early step towards this with Polybase, where we allowed you to connect to HDFS clusters and create external tables to and issue T-SQL queries. There are a couple of challenges with that. I think one of the clear pieces of feedback we heard was the performance when it came to very, very large data sets was not acceptable, right? Because there's only so much you can do when it comes to pushing down SQL semantics onto an HDFS cluster. The other aspect was while data lakes were growing, there were a lot of existing systems that the customers had, like DB2, SAP HANA, Cosmos DB, MongoDB. We have our cloud services, Cloudera, Hortonworks, Teradata, Oracle. We're basically solving connectivity with what you know as Polybase for all these systems. So what that essentially means is SQL Server could be your hub, and you could create external tables that essentially point to all these systems that are called out in the slide and issue T-SQL queries. And there's a couple of things that will happen. Underneath the covers, we've built a very intelligent caching system that essentially caches a lot of the data based on the working set and statistics that we're observing to ensure that your performance of these queries continues to improve over time, right? And this is something which I hope several of you are excited about because this is going to significantly reduce the pain that exists today to do intelligence or issue BI and analytic queries across a wide variety of data silos. So super excited about that. All right. So when we talk about big data clusters with SQL Server 2019, what exactly do we mean? So this slide tries to capture some of the details of how this is all going to come together. So basically, think of Kubernetes has sort of become the de facto standard for container management. We see this extensively being used for CI/CD pipelines. And one of the things with SQL 19 we are doing is to support high available SQL Server inside of Kubernetes. It's a huge step forward. Outside of that, on every single node in a big data cluster, you have your SQL Server engine, which is resource governed and running. You can also run Spark, which is, again, from a big data analytics standpoint, Spark has become pretty much the de facto standard for distributed data management, right? So think about a single node hosting Spark SQL. You can write T-SQL queries that go against data that's natively stored in HDFS. Like I said, SQL running in this environment is going to understand formats like Parquet natively. So everything, all the tooling that you've built over SQL essentially just works. Now, if you happen to sort of use Spark and you want that to work with SQL 19, we have deeply integrated that as well, right? So it's a single unified data platform for all your data platform needs. That's basically the way to think about it. And the other interesting part about this big data cluster environment is you can always join the data that's stored in these big data clusters in HDFS with what's stored in your master instance. You can imagine like an ERP system or a CRM system that's built where you're storing your customer data and you want to join that with web logs that you're storing in HDFS to gain some intelligent insights. You can do that in a highly performant way with the scaled out architecture that we have with SQL 19. It's great to see. The other thing that we're super excited about, we, again, have sort of briefly spoken about this, is the general availability of Azure Data Studio. It's a cross-platform tool. It works on Windows. It works on Linux. It works on the Mac. And our vision with this is really to make that a single pane of glass that manages all your Microsoft data assets. We're obviously starting off with the SQL Server family. So it manages SQL Database, SQL Server, Azure SQL Data Warehouse, and managed instance that we launched is in preview right now. And we're going to extend that to other Azure data services as well, like Cosmos DB and our open source databases, right? And the thing that we're super excited about is we are building this tool in very close partnership with this community. There's lots of very rich feedback that we're receiving in terms of, how do you make it very intuitive, very simple. So when you move, let's say, from your relational database to an open source database to a data lake, how does the tool contextually understand those changes and gives you the most relevant tasks that you can do depending on the environment you're in? We've deeply integrated the notebooks experience, which, as you can, for those of you who are sort of, partnering with data scientists in your companies, that's really the de facto environment in which they work. So super excited about that. Let's take a look at this whole notion of how big data clusters work, how virtualization works through a demo. Let me invite Asad and Nelly on stage to show us how this works. Guys, take it away.
Thanks, Rohan. Thanks, Rohan. So in next few minutes, Nelly and I will show you how, with SQL Server 2019, we are delivering a unified data platform. The goal is to bridge the chasm that exists today in many of the enterprises out there between their RDBMS deployments and their big data clusters. What you see here is Azure Data Studio. Originally, we shipped it with the support for SQL Server, and now we have expanded it to span both on-prem, cloud, and added support for other Azure data services. So Natalie, why don't you show us some of the big data capabilities that we are shipping in SQL 2019?
Sure. So here in Azure Data Studio, I can easily get a unified view of my data, whether it's sitting in SQL Server in tables, or if it's sitting as files in HDFS, our enterprise data lake. Now, if we browse the files here in HDFS, you see that we have some CSV files. Now, let's right-click on one of these files and select Preview to look at the content. You see here that we have some unstructured text data, and this happens to represent some product reviews that we have for an online sales business.
So that's great to have a unified view across all data sitting in SQL or outside in HDFS. So what if I want to go and query this unstructured file using Spark, which we are shipping in 2019?
Sure. Let me show you the new built-in notebook experience in Azure Data Studio. So using a notebook like this, and this happens to be Python, I can interact with my data using Spark. Now, here we're taking one of the CSV files that we have in HDFS, and we're converting it into a Parquet format. Now, Parquet is a more optimized format. You could think about it like column store, but for files. And we're then using Spark SQL to query that file to get the top rows, as you can see here. Now, notebooks are also very useful if you want to visualize the data. So we have prepared a word cloud to represent the most common words that we have in our product reviews.
So I love it, but like, what if I'm coming new to Spark? I don't even know how to set up the notebooks, get the Spark context set up, and run my first query. So how do I get started?
Yeah, so we've tried to make it easy. So if you select a file in HDFS, for example, this one, and then click Analyze in Notebook, we're actually going to generate a notebook for you with some code where you can start querying your data and go from there.
So that's great, but Nelly, I coming from SQL, don't want to go and use Spark, let's say, for querying that file. So how do I go and use T-SQL to go and query the same file which is sitting in HDFS?
Well, that's a good thing. Now, in the same tool, I can now go and directly query my file in HDFS using the new capability in SQL Engine to natively read Parquet and CSV files.
That's awesome. So now we talk about the unified data platform, and I'm sure like all my enterprise data, we would love to have it in SQL Server and HDFS, but what if it is sitting outside in some other database system? How do I query and do joins with that data?
Yeah, so that's when data virtualization comes in. So we happen to have some data sitting in Oracle. So we have some customer data there. So we've created an external table over Oracle. And now we're going to take that table. We're going to join that data with the data we had in HDFS. And in addition to that, we're going to do a three-way join here with some sales data that's sitting right in SQL Server, accessing all of these different sources right from SQL Server.
That's really exciting. Let us finish this demo by showing one of my favorite features. So in SQL 2019, we are delivering Java language support in SQL Server. And as you can imagine, it lights up all sort of scenarios, even easy migration for your apps from other competitive platforms. So in this scenario, how we use that capability is that the three-way join that we showed you is calling into the Java code, where we are running a machine learning model that was trained using Spark. And as a result, I can do sentiment analysis and build an intelligent application. So just to recap, the three things we showed you. Number one, SQL now natively support big data queries. Second, we are shipping Apache Spark as part of SQL 2019, and now we have support for Java language. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Asad and Nelly. That is so great to see. You know, there's a lot more in SQL Server 2019 that we weren't able to cover today. It's an eye chart of some of the features that we put together. But yeah, I definitely encourage you to check that out. So moving on to the next pillar of our customer journey and the product strategy. It's really about customers who are looking at their existing applications, their existing workloads, and looking at the cloud, the managed services that we have in Azure to see how they can benefit by migrating there. First of all, just in terms of choices, if you look at, for your operational data services, we've pretty much covered everything. SQL Server, of course, that's our flagship proprietary database, having the support for managed services of that in Azure. We support Postgres, we support MySQL, we support MariaDB. Redis cache, it's a very popular cache that's put in front of a lot of the operational databases. And of course, Cosmos DB for all the NoSQL workloads that exist. We've invested in our database migration service. We've basically done migrations. These could be an older version of SQL Server being modernized to the new one, or a foreign migration like Oracle, IBM, Teradata, DB2, et cetera, coming to SQL. For the last 25 years, we've invested in tooling that enables this to happen. Database migration service really was built around this learning, right? The question we asked ourselves based on the customer feedback we were hearing was, how do we take this learning and these tools that we've built and operationalize that into a service that makes it very easy for customers as they think about doing these migrations? That's really what the database migration service is. And there's very specific things we are investing in. For a lot of the mission-critical applications, the customer feedback is super clear: zero downtime, or near zero downtime. So we're going to support that. We have that in preview today for migrating your SQL Server workloads. Migrate at scale. It's never really about one database at a time, right? When you're looking at migrating hundreds of applications, which is what we see many of our customers do, you have to think about, how do I migrate like thousands and, in fact, tens of thousands of databases seamlessly and monitor it, measure it, and fix things as they, and which all that leads to, of course, optimizing your IT infrastructure. That's the key point of this pillar. It's really about, there's a lot of value that's come in these managed services in the cloud. We're using machine learning at, behind the scenes. Just to give you a sense, just with Azure SQL Database, we have close to about 5 million active databases at any given point in time worldwide. We collect close to a petabyte. That's a petabyte of telemetry data every day. These are your queries, et cetera. Of course, it's all anonymized with PII removed. And we are learning from this data, right? We are able to predict what kind of indexes you'll need, how to sort of make parameterized queries better, how do you protect your database from SQL injection. A lot of this is based on the machine learning models that we have built over the last 3.5 years. And that's how you're able to optimize your IT infrastructure by migrating these workloads to the cloud. We announced the general availability of Azure SQL Database Managed Instance. How many of you are excited about it? OK. The bar here was super high for us. We wanted this to be the best destination for your existing SQL Server workloads. We knew there were some challenges with Azure SQL Database, which sort of had a database programming model, and we were sort of targeting a lot for the newer applications with singletons and elastic pools. So a couple of years ago, we sort of sat down and basically spec'd out what it would take to keep the value. We didn't want to lose the value of a managed service while making it extremely friction-free for our customers to migrate the workloads. And managed instance essentially is the culmination of that. So super excited. Our bar was no app changes. Security and compliance. These are things outside the database itself, where you think about virtual networks, how those get laid out, subnet masking, et cetera. For compliance of how you run your system, we ensured that all of that was made. And of course, with Azure Hybrid benefit, we are investing a lot in customers who've bet on us for several years to ensure that they get the credit for the trust that they place in us. So it is both from a product truth standpoint and from a cost standpoint. If you have a SQL Server workload, there is only one place that you should think about. It's Azure SQL Database Managed Instance. Huge, up to 80% savings. I'm super excited to announce. We announced the general availability of the general purpose deployment option of Managed Instance. Today, I'm very excited to announce, a lot of customers have been waiting, the business critical option, or the business critical SKU of Managed Instance is generally available starting December 1st. And this will allow you to run. Thank you. This will allow you to run your most mission-critical SQL Server workloads in Azure with the same benefits that you get I sort of spoke about. Because we are leveraging a lot of the local SSDs for performance. I mean, we're using the generation 5 of the hardware, with a significant amount of compute capacity. So with the availability of this version, you have no reason to wait if you're thinking of migrating your mission-critical workloads. Another thing we announced at Ignite was this notion of hyperscale. This is where we fundamentally re-architected the storage engine or the recovery model of SQL, right? For those of you who've been working with Azure SQL Database, we basically had a 4 terabyte limit on the database size, and this was because there's a way in which SQL storage architecture was laid out, right? And we had to make sure that we get the performance and scale, the speed of backups, and things like that. But for the last 2.5 years, the team has been working to build this really, really cool piece of technology called hyperscale. Effectively, the design point allows us to scale out storage across various nodes. So in theory, there's no limit. We've tested autoscale up to 100 terabytes. And the gains, when you think about like scenarios like point-in-time restore, are just mind-boggling. Right? Something that would take weeks or months finishes off in minutes. Right? And the key characteristic is that we scale storage and compute independently. The other thing, again, in the spirit of continuing to announce more stuff, announcing the accelerated database recovery feature for Azure SQL Database. Again, this is for those of you who've been involved in situations where an unplanned failure happens after a ton of writes, and then your recovery is, you probably need to call Connor, and he's probably going to take a few months to fix that, right? And but with this feature, we effectively have reduced that to a very, very short duration. Effectively, our goal essentially is to make sure that no matter what happens to your database, your recovery happens in constant time. It's a pretty, again, major shift, and we're super excited about it. And finally, machine learning services in Azure SQL Database. Right, this has been an ask from our customers. So anyone who's sort of built workloads running R and Python on SQL 16 and SQL 17, you can easily migrate them to Azure SQL Database now, and those workloads will continue to work. And this is, while all this stuff seems a little new, what I will tell you is as more and more applications become intelligent and that thing getting pushed, these are going to be very, very critical features going forward. So let me invite Lindsay Allen to come and show us how all the cool stuff in Azure SQL Database works. Lindsay? Take it away.
Thanks, Rohan. Good morning. I got 4 minutes, so 3 minutes and 58 seconds. And I got a whole bunch of things to show. I will try to get through them. So you heard Rohan announce that we are GA, the business critical SKU of managed instance. What's so special about it? It uses local SSD and does replication of full replicas. And with all that, we can sustain 200,000 IOPS. So it can actually handle all your really demanding tier 1 workload. So I'm going to show you with a IoT smart city demo. This is workload generator and load into a P15 size, which is business critical, and a database. And just in Hong Kong, really hot, and a lot of people go to work, forgot to turn off their AC. And so the government wanted to be green, right? So we're monitoring it. Let's take a look at what's behind the scene. So this is not just simply insert. It's actually creating a data warehouse at the same time. So now I'm inserting, I can still querying it, because I got this column store created. And if I go back, you see the count increase. Scanning the database and see there's, I think that's 530 million rows. So we just keep increasing, sustaining about 1.4 million transactions per second, real workload. Not all that fake, right? Because your application can support those. So now you goes, these application insert so many data so fast, right? I'm going to use up all my space of 4 terabytes in no time, which actually a few days probably can fill up a couple of terabytes. So you heard Rohan announce the public preview of hyperscale. And what is hyperscale runs? So hyperscale is we have to run. We don't have Connor and Bob's fancy machine, right? Can put petabytes disk. We're running this in cloud. We have these 2-socket machines. And each socket probably fits only a maximum 4 terabytes. That's what we're giving you. So now we have to run 100 terabytes, 200 terabytes. How about infinite? So we have to figure out how to scale. Most customer doesn't like to go figure out how to use partition keys, right? Which key to partition, which whatever. You can never be right. It doesn't matter which partition key you choose, it's never right. So let's do this transparent. So we decided to re-architect SQL engine. We made it a microservice. Every single component can scale independently, can actually have resiliency independently. So we have this infinite design, infinite scale architecture, and can actually hosting as big database as the physically hardware allows, right? But since we actually have to test, so every day we have all these digital elves deploying our test database, try to test. So 100 terabytes is largest restore we have. So we decided to support 100 terabytes. But if you have 200 terabytes, 300, please give it a try. We're happy to host you. And so this is, you see we have test database, 50 terabytes. And the wonderful thing is now if you go restore them, because they all partition distributed out, and one restore is pretty much constant because we take snapshot now. We restore from snapshot. It's not size of data operations anymore. And from here, you can click on restore. And because I don't have time, I won't do restore. I'll leave it. And then you can connect it with anything. Here, you can connect with Visual Studio, which I actually already have it here. And this is, I connect to my 50 terabytes database. And I don't know these magical tables, that's our test database. I'll just select top 100. See, performance is pretty good, right? It's not very big, this particular table. But the database is 50 terabytes. So it's all wonderful. And one thing I want to show you is Rohan mentioned that this magical feature called ADR, accelerated database recovery, make all this possible. So before ADR, you know, I'm pretty sure you all experienced the pain, right? Your database failover recovery time is largely dependent on your workload. And you never know what your dev is doing with the application, right? So you're biting your fingers. Is failover going to be seconds? Going to be an hour? You don't really know. And we sure experienced those pains in Azure, and because we don't actually see the application itself. And we find out the sleep deprivation is a very powerful motivator. Thanks, community. So we got the feature built. It took over a year. And it's very transparent, so I have to demo it with 2 instances to show you. And one instance runs with ADR on, one without. We're just dumping data into it. What I want to show you is, so now the instance started. I want to, if I can get this, OK. Pay attention to the transaction log size. OK? What happened to my database? Did it start? OK, it did. So monitor the log size, right? So with ADR on, now we have this S-logs. S-log for your metadata, for whatever, but all the user transaction logs have persistent version in your tables now. So the magic here is you will see the log actually is not going to grow infinitely with your workload, because now we can very aggressively truncate the log. This is in full recovery mode. You see my log stop growing with ADR on. So if now they're still about same size, if I crash the server now, the recovery time for both is probably still similar, right? So I will let it run a little longer. By the way, the log size is in database size, right, as well. So you know the total size for terabytes does include logs. So this is added benefit. And I think I said too many rows, so it shouldn't take that long to finish insert. So you see the ADR without ADR is almost, it's over a gig. This is stay at around 500 meg, right? And so now it's done, it's crashed. The server we're done with. So now let's start instance. Look with ADR. Oh, I already over time. OK. OK, it's trying to restart. The one with on, it'll be done really fast. See? 5 seconds, it's over. Yay, thanks. Thank you. The last really, really quickly. So now you have thousands of databases, millions of databases, and you want to monitor them. You have your favorite tool. We have it for you out of box as well. We integrate with OMS. Actually, the best thing is you can look at it. Just look at it. You don't have to go dive into every single database, figure out what's going on, right? It's actually going to tell you. So I pick last 24 hours or last 3 days, whatever, and this is some resource issues with these 2 databases. If you click on it and try to figure out what's going on, somebody in Managed Instance team is doing perf test because we're GAing. So with that, I'm wrapping up. SQL rocks. Thank you. Give back to Rohan.
Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you so much. That was great to see. It's amazing amount of innovation that's sort of going on in the SQL database world. Other things we announced was the general availability of Postgres and MySQL and the preview availability of MariaDB. These are super popular open source databases, as some of you may know. The interesting thing is they are built on the same PaaS fabric, which is all the IP that SQL Server is built on, right? Managed instance and Azure SQL database. So a lot of the value in terms of high availability, disaster recovery, intelligent performance, threat detection accrue towards all these other engines as well, right? So we recently announced threat detection and intelligent performance, both of which, of course, are already available for Azure SQL database for these open source databases as well. And you'll see us where with Azure, we're trying to create this open platform. Of course, we'll be first and best for SQL workloads, but we want to open up our arms to the open source community as well and make Azure the best place to run any operational database. All right, again, huge number of features sort of coming in this area. Sort of moving on, for building cloud native applications. This is essentially where we have this flagship service in Cosmos DB that some of you may have heard of that we built from the ground up. An interesting fact, the more usage that we are seeing of Cosmos DB, in fact, a core foundational pieces of Azure, and are also sort of being built for performance and scale and reliability and availability on Cosmos DB as well, right? Just as a bit of a background, the service was designed from the ground up to be cloud scale. It has some very fundamental characteristics when you think about turnkey global replication, separation of compute and storage, guaranteed SLAs in terms of not just availability, but throughput and latency. It's the only service in the world that essentially has that. And it supports various data models on top, key value, column family, document, and graph. And effectively, one of the most interesting ways in which we expose the value of the service is through APIs like MongoDB, a SQL interface. Cassandra is something that we recently GA'd. There's just a ton of value that's sort of built in. We've learned, if you take a look at the number, even little details as to what should the partition size be, how many partitions per node, effectively, a lot of that stuff is built from the ground up to be cloud scale, so that the expectations around all your queries, whether it's reads or writes, being completed within single millisecond latency are held up. Super excited about this. Recently, we announced a feature called multi-master, which is a technical feat by itself. This is something that the team has been working on for several years. And it's come to fruition. We announced the general availability of that. And the adoption is just skyrocketing, right? This is essentially where you can have a notion of a database that spans the globe, and you're effectively updating it in multiple regions of the world. So your availability for the writes increases as well, right? So that's one of the ways in which we've enhanced the SLAs, not just for reads, which we always had, but for writes. We are also releasing reserved capacity for Cosmos DB for those who sort of want to reserve it for several months to several years as well, and there's significant savings associated with that. Our play essentially with this, again, just based on what we heard from our customers, is a lot of the NoSQL deployments, right? When you think about Mongo, Cassandra, Couchbase, Neo4j, HBase, et cetera, they have become very critical workloads running in enterprises. The foundation that Cosmos DB gives for things like global replication, SLAs for read and write latency, et cetera, essentially are applicable to all of them, right? So it's a much, much better place to run your Mongo applications. It's a much better database to run your Cassandra, et cetera. And we're already seeing a ton of our customers do that, right? So you could see us adding more and more API surface area support on this one. But it's definitely, if you haven't checked this out, I definitely encourage you to sort of go do that. Again, the best way to sort of experience the fun with Cosmos DB is through a demo. Let me invite Deborah on stage. Deborah.
All right, thanks, Rohan. With Cosmos DB's new multi-master capabilities, you and your teams can now write planet-scale applications where not only can your app read from any Azure data region, you can write to it as well. And this feature is available and supported for every Cosmos DB API, including MongoDB and Cassandra API. Now let's see Cosmos DB in action. Here I have an application our team has built called PXDraw. It's a collaborative drawing experiment modeled after Reddit's Place experiment, where users from all over the world can come in, choose their favorite color, and draw on this canvas. Now, I have this app deployed behind an Azure Traffic Manager with one pointing to a replica in West US and one in Japan West. And you'll see that as I begin drawing on this canvas, my data is being written to Cosmos DB and replicated to Japan in almost near real time. And to truly show the capability of multi-master, I can even go to the instance in Japan, draw here, and see the data is again being written to Cosmos DB and replicated all around the world almost instantaneously. Pretty cool, huh? All right. All right, so now let's see how Cosmos DB and multi-master makes this all possible. First, let's see how the data is stored in Cosmos DB. Here I'm at my Cosmos DB Data Explorer, which is my one-stop shop in the portal for viewing and working with all the data in my Cosmos DB collections. I'll open this in full screen to give us some more screen estate. And once I'm here, I can see that each pixel is stored as an XY coordinate along with a color. So that's how the data is stored, but how do we get data to replicate to all these different regions? With Cosmos DB's turnkey global distribution, adding a new region to your Cosmos DB account is as simple as going to the portal, choosing the region, let's say Australia East, and hitting save. And the important thing to note here is that as my data is replicating, my application is still highly available. In fact, with Cosmos DB's new multi-master capabilities, we now guarantee 5 nines of read and write availability. In addition, we've updated our SLAs to guarantee less than 10 millisecond latency for reads and writes at the 99th percentile, a single-digit millisecond latency for both reads and writes. Now, in other database systems that are this highly available, there's usually a trade-off with consistency. Many other database systems force you to choose between two extremes, strong and eventual consistency. With Cosmos DB, we offer 5 consistency levels, ranging from strong to eventual, with click stops in between, so you can make the right, precise, intuitive trade-offs for your application. Again, it's as simple as navigating to the portal, choosing the one for your account, and hitting save. Now finally, when you're running multi-master at scale, it's possible, rare but possible, that conflicts could occur. For example, I might be trying to draw to the same exact pixel as someone else around the world at the same exact time. In other database systems, managing conflicts at scale is an extremely hard problem that takes a lot of overhead and management. With Cosmos DB, we wanted to make conflict resolution simple. Today, with multi-master, we support 2 different modes of conflict resolution. The first is last write wins, which is resolved based on timestamp or a user-specified property. For those of you who want more flexibility, we also offer the ability for you to write your own custom store procedure, which we will automatically run to resolve conflicts on your behalf. This means that one of the hardest parts about running multi-master at scale is now taken care of by the Cosmos DB service. So in conclusion, with Cosmos DB's new multi-master capabilities, you and your teams can now write planet-scale applications that can read and write from any Azure data region with single-digit millisecond latency for all Cosmos DB APIs, including MongoDB and Cassandra API. We're so excited to see what you and your teams will build and do with Cosmos DB. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Again, just fantastic to see that, and there's just a lot of value that we didn't cover today that's coming up in Cosmos DB as well. Moving on to our final pillar around unlocking insights. You know, one of the things I mentioned was a lot of the enterprises are looking into modernizing their enterprise data warehouse. And what you see on the slide is the classic pattern that sort of is working just across the board. You know, lots of data sources ingest. You know, there's structured data, unstructured data. So you specify for the unstructured and the structured data, landing it in some sort of a data lake store, prepping it using some sort of a big data analytics tool, serving it using a cloud data warehouse, and I'll sort of speak a lot about that, and then visualizing it in tools like in a Power BI. For us in Azure, we have a very classic pattern. We have highly scalable options for each of these actions. Azure Data Factory for global scale, the load speeds are pretty amazing. We have the best Spark in the world in Azure with Azure Databricks. These are the folks who actually invented Spark. It's basically 7x faster than the normal Apache Spark that you get out of open source. With Azure SQL Data Warehouse Gen 2, we have the fastest cloud data warehouse in the market, and I'll show you why in a second. It does scans, which are, of course, a very core primitive that needs to be executed at scale whenever you're doing any sort of analytics workload. At 720 gigabytes per second, it's huge. And finally, with Power BI, the investments that we've made, we're seeing up to 10 petabytes of data being loaded and viewed across that. So it's really amazing to see. Something that I'm super excited to announce is a bunch of improvements that we've done to Azure SQL Data Warehouse. Again, all of this is based on the customer feedback that we receive constantly as we go through our semester planning. We think about this. Row-level security is super, super important from, again, from our customers. Intelligent advisors that we recently launched where you can sort of look at how to tune your query performance. Workload management, where if you have multiple queries running, how do you prioritize certain queries over the others? Accelerated database recovery that we spoke about, like Lindsay demoed, is applicable to the data warehouse as well because it's the same SQL engine, essentially, that we scale out. And we're making a ton of investments in SSDT to support CI/CD pipelines with the data warehouse. So this is an interesting slide. We actually had 2 independent companies run database benchmarks. And what GigaOM did a pretty thorough study looking at multiple sizes of Azure SQL Data Warehouse and Redshift, and you see the results. The lower is better, of course. And across all the workloads that they ran, Azure SQL Data Warehouse turned out to be 30% less than Redshift. And on the other graph that you see, there's a whole bunch of cloud data warehouse or big data analytics stores that are compared by Fivetran. And you see SQL Data Warehouse for the workload that they ran, of course, lands up being the fastest. And if you sort of read the blog, it tells you, relative to Redshift, it's significantly cheaper as well. And a lot of this has happened because of the investments we've made over the last 24 months in significantly enhancing our local caching based on SSDs. So we've looked at hardware, we've looked at software innovations to ensure that we do the right amount of workload caching for gaining this performance. The best way, again, to sort of look at this is through a demo. Let me invite John, who runs our SQL Data Warehouse business. John, please take it away.
Thanks, Rohan. So through these cloud data warehouse benchmarks, we've seen some really amazing performance on data sets up to 30 terabytes in size. But what about those data sets that are 10x that size, or even 30x that size? Today, what I want to show is how SQL Data Warehouse can deliver performance against a petabyte of TPCH data. So what I've already done is I've scaled my data warehouse to over 4,000 cores of computing capacity in Azure. So now that I have that warehouse and I have that data with TPCH loaded into it, I'm going to run a simple query on top of that data. We're going to run our query against the line item table. The line item table has over 6 trillion rows of data. And here you can see that that query is going to return in just seconds. So with SQL Data Warehouse, we're processing over 1 trillion rows per second. And you saw how snappy that was to return. But as we know, queries are not always just about aggregates and pulling back aggregates from the data warehouses. In a lot of cases, we need to do drill downs. We need to get the row-level details of that data. So we're going to do another query over that same 6 trillion rows of data. We're going to join that data with orders and customers. And if we execute that query is going to bring back 6 out of those 6 trillion rows, and we get row-level detail from the warehouse, and we also get that data joined with orders and customers. So a ton of power there with Azure SQL Data Warehouse, and you can see how Azure is ready for any cloud data warehousing workload. But really, as we bring more of our workloads and users onto our enterprise data warehouse, it's critical that we deliver a great experience for those users. Today, I'm really, really excited to announce workload importance for Azure SQL Data Warehouse. So let's see how this works. Let's assume we have a warehouse that's just shared across an organization. We have a number of users and workloads that are accessing that warehouse. If I run one of the management views, I can see that this warehouse is busy. I have an ETL role that's already processing data. I have queries that are running. I have a lot of queries that have completed. But I also have queries in a suspended state. These queries are waiting for system resources so that they can execute. If we connect to the same warehouse as a data analyst and try to run an additional query, the system is going to queue this query. And the query will be queued until system resources are available to execute this query. Let's connect to the same warehouse with our CEO dashboard reporting account, and we're going to try to run an additional query against that warehouse. If we go back and look at our analyst window, we can see that the analyst window is still waiting to return. That query has been queued up. But the CEO query has already executed. Through workload importance, the system's prioritized that work. It's jumped in front of the queue and really enabled to give a great experience for users across the data warehouse. So not only can we deliver petabyte scale performance, but with features like workload management, we can really democratize data and analytics for the entire enterprise. Rohan?
Thank you, John. That's fantastic to see those performance numbers. All right, moving on. One of the things that we're super excited about is the partnerships that we have, especially around our Azure SQL Data Warehouse. One of the things I'm super excited to announce today is Informatica iPaaS. Their cloud offering is going to be available in Azure shortly, is generally available within the next few weeks. And there are lots of our customers who use Informatica who want to move their workloads into Azure and leverage the Azure SQL Data Warehouse, and we are excited about that partnership. Tableau has built a native connector. It's in preview to connect with Azure SQL Data Warehouse to show the rich value that their customers get. So in each of these cases, you see our joint customers are getting a ton of value with the way we are partnering with these companies. And finally, for a lot of our on-prem customers, we continue to invest with partners like Dell in building reference architectures, and we're super excited about 2 new ones that are coming in, going online shortly. HD Insight, we spoke about some of this at Ignite as well. It's our service to do open source analytics. There's a lot of innovation that's coming in that. We released Hadoop 3.0, is now supported natively. Enterprise-grade security, if you want individual nodes of your Hadoop cluster to support Kerberos now and be integrated with the Active Directory, that works. And there's a lot of work we've done to enhance developer productivity. Because we run internally a 10 exabyte scale, data lake. And there's a lot of our engineers who actually use these, run queries, et cetera. They need debugging capabilities. So we've built a lot of this stuff in-house that we've released for our HD Insight customers. Super excited about that. Another pattern that we're seeing in our customers is the notion of real-time analytics, where there's a lot of machine-generated data through IoT and such, where you have stuff like event hubs. It's a very, very highly scalable event ingestion service that we have in Azure, a messaging platform that a lot of customers have used. And that essentially then streams into Databricks again for doing the prep and the model-trained work. And it can either go to Cosmos DB if you're sort of doing real-time reporting for things like web apps and such, or it can land in the Azure SQL Data Warehouse if you want to do Power BI and analytic queries and those sort of patterns. So a lot of these, again, work very, very seamlessly, and it's an interesting pattern that we're seeing being deployed. Today, I'm super happy to announce one very critical piece of feedback we got from our customers is while they love event hubs, the protocol that they want to run on top of event hubs, which is a managed service, is Kafka. And we have had that in preview for a few months, and it's generally available today. This is something that we're super excited about. So the best-in-class messaging platform that exists in the public cloud now supports Kafka. It's huge. Azure Data Explorer is another service that we launched in preview at Ignite. Just to sort of give you a sense, this is essentially used by almost every engineer at Microsoft to do their operation log analysis. Like all the SQL DB engineers, Cosmos DB engineers, just name it, Windows engineers, Xbox, Office, all of them have used this service internally for several years. And it basically shines when it comes to just ingesting huge amounts of unstructured and semi-structured data, and then without doing a lot of preparation work, doing some quick queries on it. The best way to actually look at this is through a demo. Let me invite one of our customers, Ariel from Taboola, to come and explain how they use Azure Data Explorer. Ariel? Hi. Can you share a little bit about your company?
Yes, well, Taboola is the content recommendation company. We provide those moments of discovery where we help you find content that you may like and never knew is out there. We do this for approximately 1.3 billion users a month and on approximately 3 billion web pages a day.
Wow, that's fantastic to hear.
Yes.
So how are you using Azure Data Explorer?
So Azure Data Explorer has really given us the opportunity, or given me as the IT guy, the opportunity to give my internal users this amazing platform to access data and make a lot of sense out of all that information that we have out there. Can I show you a demo?
Oh, absolutely. Please take it away. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's look at what we have here. So we're running now on the Azure Data Explorer, and as we see, the data set is 22 billion lines of logs, and this is only for one day. Now let's talk a bit about how we brought those in there. We have our CDN provider, Fastly, and they just write the logs directly to Azure Storage. And then Azure Data Explorer easily picks it up, so it's zero work for us. Then, looking at this in a pie chart is as easy as running the query. And we can see now a pie chart of how the users are distributed between the different data centers. And this was running on 3 hours of data out of those 22 billion lines of log that you saw. Looking at the same data, but this time with a time chart and for the full day. So instead of looking at 3 hours, let's look at the full 24 hours. Running over that, all of that data, now we see how the different data centers are getting the data in the different hours of the day. I'm sorry, getting the users on the different hours of the day. And we can see specifically that the APAC data center had this spike of traffic sometime in the mid-morning. So that is interesting, and that is different behavior for the APAC data center that we can look into later on. Another fun query that we can run here, a bit deeper, looking into all of those customers that actually reached our data centers, and to see if any of those data centers were bounced between data centers. So again, I'm looking at all of those lines of log, looking at a specific hour, and I see that we have about 3%, 3.6% of the users that are moving between the different data centers. So I want to look at that data, but this time with a time chart and on the full day. Running in live, we see that there is a spike, a moment in the day that we have 7% of the users moving between data centers, while the rest of the day we have much fewer. So we need to look into that and understand if we have some type of infrastructure problem or something else. Now, providing those recommendations for all of you out there, we want to make sure that we run those recommendations really, really fast. So here we can check what is the 95 percentile, what is the 5% of the slowest recommendations that we provide for all of our customers out there. And we see that most of the day we're pretty fine, but there are a few spikes where we are above 800 milliseconds. So we want to zoom into that specific time frame, this time with much more resolution. So if we were looking at 2-minute aggregations, now we're looking at 10-second aggregations, and we see that there was a spike somewhere around 2:30. We want to understand this spike, and to understand this spike, we have a lot of data to sift through. We have a lot of dimensions. So we're going to run now a query on all of that data, all of those dimensions with machine learning capabilities, with diff patterns baked into the query, and get a result that will help us understand what was the problem in that time. So we get this table, and the data scientist looking at this table, can actually understand what was the main problem. As I'm a bit short on time, I'll jump immediately and show you that we saw that the dimension most affecting us was publishers. So we looked at the top 7 publishers for that 30-minute segment, and we can see that the 2 top publishers here were the only ones affected. So there was something in the I'd say the connectivity between our services and those 2 publishers. So that is my last query here, and showing you how we use Azure Data Explorer to provide real insights into Taboola's data. Thank you very much. Rohan.
Thank you so much, Ariel. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'll just say one last amazing thing. Since we started using the product, we have totally turned off our on-prem database within 4 weeks of using the platform. So it's amazing as that, and I hope all of you enjoy the product.
All right.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Do check it out. I think it's fantastic. We're super bullish on what our customers are going to do. Across the insights pillar, again, there's tons of innovation. There is no Keynote complete without Power BI. I mean, it's a fantastic tool. I mean, if you just take a look at all the data sources that you can sort of pull in, real-time dashboards, natural language queries, custom visualizations, deep integration with O365 Dynamics, et cetera. And then you can consume it on the device of your choice, web, mobile, desktop, embedded. Now we have deep integration with Cortana. Couple of announcements to make based on, again, customer feedback that the team has sort of worked on. The first one is a feature called data flows, which effectively removes the notion of complex ETL. You can just point Power BI to your Azure Data Lake store or any data lake store, basically, and it sort of figures out the connectivity and all the transformations that are needed for the scenarios to basically for you to start working directly. It's huge. This has been a big customer ask, and it's going to significantly reduce the friction. The whole notion really here was about how do you create the notion of self-service for big data that's stored in the data lake. The other feature that I'm particularly excited about, because we've heard this for a long time, is operational reporting was always something different. And a lot of our customers wanted to basically use a lot of their investments that they'd already made in SSRS and have that visualized through Power BI. Guess what? We've addressed that feedback, and we have this feature in preview. The best way to look at it is through a demo. Please let me invite Patrick on stage to show us how all this sort of works. Patrick?
All right. All right. It's about time somebody let me on the big stage, right? It's about time. I was trying to figure it out. I was trying to figure out what's going on all these years. Nobody let me up here. All right. So, paginated reports, right? Reporting services. It has been a journey. We have been working with reporting services for over a decade. The first time I installed reporting services was from a command line. I'm just saying, right? You guys may not remember that. And then Microsoft integrated it into the product, which made it better. Then they kind of went quiet on us till 2008 R2. They introduced Spark lines and data bars. Then they went really quiet. All right? It's like, are you guys going to do anything with reporting services? Is it dead? No, it's not dead. They came back. They came back strong. They made it HTML5. They pulled it out of the product, and now we have Power BI Report Server, and now it's the standalone thing. But wait, we got more, right? We have something better. We have paginated reports that's going to be in the Power BI service. And if you go check the blog out, we're announcing the public preview today, so go check it out. If you haven't, I know you guys probably want to leave right now and go do it. I'll wait. Some people want to leave. Some of you. All right. And so let me show you how this is done. So this is Power BI Report Server. This is your traditional paginated report. You guys are familiar with this. You've been using this for over a decade. If you go here, right, to get started with this, all you need is your RDL. You just need the RDL file. Now, for some of you people, you may be going, why go to the cloud, Microsoft? If you want to stay in the 90s, right, if you want to stay on premises, you want to stay back in the 90s, please, stay old school. But if you want to be like me, modern up, go to the cloud. The cloud is the best thing in the world, right? And so you click these dots right here, the ellipses, and you can download the report. All you need is the RDL file. Once you get the RDL file, you can use tools that you've always used today, that you use today, like SQL Server Data Tools or Report Builder. You can see right here, here's my report that I spent countless hours designing. Last night, like I spent 15 minutes putting this together. And so once I got this done, you save this, and then Power BI is, to get an RDL in Power BI is just a get data experience. That's all it is. So you go out to a web browser, you go to Power BI, you go to a workspace, click Get Data, choose Files, Get, and browse to the location where that RDL file is. Once you do that, the report will show. You click the report, give it a few seconds. You'll see the experience. Choose my parameter. I'm just going to choose one parameter, just one for now. Click View Report. Yes, come on, you got to applause for that, right? So paginated reports inside of Power BI just to get data experience. But wait, I'm not done, okay? So you can share this report. You can hide the parameters pane. You can export this out to any format. But look at this print experience. You guys asked for this. All this, the print experience that you see is because of everything you guys have asked. The community asked, we did it, right? This is great. Come on, this is awesome, all right? And so not only do you have your standard letter and legal, but let's say you're doing QR codes or barcodes, you can customize this up to look however you want, feel however you want. You can do any paper size you want. But wait, I'm not done yet. So because of this tight integration, So if I run this report, and I take a look, Australia, not doing too good. I click here, and then I have a hyperlink that I've built. It's going to open up Power BI, open up my Power BI report, pass the parameters from my paginated report to my Power BI report when this thing renders. I promise it's going to render. We're going to blame it on the internet. And once it renders, I can go all ad hoc on it. I can go all ad hoc on this data by clicking edit. Yeah, I'm going ad hoc on it. And now I could dig in to try to find out why are we doing so bad in Australia, all right? This is phenomenal. My mind is blown by this, right? So I want to leave you guys with two things, and I'm going to walk off the stage because my time is up. If you have any questions, comments, you want to learn more about this, I'm going to be at the Microsoft booth or at the SQL Clinic. Come check me out. And the last thing, because I have been on this huge journey with reporting services, I want to say this. This feature is hot as wasabi mustard sauce. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Patrick. That's phenomenal to see. I mean, it's been a huge ask. And closing with AI, I know that was pretty fun. We're investing huge in Azure AI. You know, basically, for building custom applications, using the bot framework, there's just lots and lots of value we are adding to things like speech recognition, image recognition. There's just tons of these bot APIs that you can just inject in your apps. We are investing huge in cognitive search. There's a lot of deep learning models, et cetera, and how to make that very relevant for your scenario. And finally, the thing that I'm pretty excited about is the integration that we're building between Azure Databricks and Azure Machine Learning, which deeply integrates with a lot of our Azure Data Platform systems. We announced Databricks Delta, where they basically added transaction supports on top of Spark. It makes it super reliable, and that's already available in Azure. Again, the best way to sort of experience this is through a demo to see how we're using machine learning to solve real-world customer scenarios. Let me invite Deepsha on stage. Deepsha, please come and take it away.
Thank you, Rohan. So today I'm going to show you the sorts of things that Shell is doing for the purposes of this demo. The view that you're going to see here is a dashboard view that Shell intends to roll out as a part of its ongoing pilot to its retail site managers. Now, retail site managers need alerts to ensure the safety of their gas stations. These alerts can be things like an unaccompanied minor at a gas station, a blocked exit, or something as fatal as someone smoking near a gas pump. But note that these alerts that you're seeing here, the 64 alerts this week, they're all predictive alerts. So let's go ahead and see how this predictive model was built. So I'm going to go into this Azure Databricks notebook, which is an extremely collaborative experience for data engineers and data scientists and business analysts to come together and work. So for a first step in a machine learning model is I need to have the right data set. Now, if I want to build a model for gas station fire safety, one way to build that data set is to go and burn down a gas station and take images. But I've been told no for that, and I've checked. So Azure Databricks and MML Spark now makes it extremely easy for you to do search through the trove of information that the internet holds. And in this case, I'm going to quickly do a Bing search. And the Bing search now allows me to do the keyword-centric search. For instance, in here, I'm going to do a dangerous image search for a gas station on fire, or a normal image search for normal gas stations. And that easily, within the Azure Databricks notebook, I can search through and get that data set. The next step is image classification. Now, doing deep learning on images is an extremely long and complex process. Now, with Azure Databricks and MML Spark, you can easily do transfer learning on pre-existing models. In this case, I'm using ResNet 50. What this enables me to do is not have to train my models from scratch, but to use existing models, build upon them to fine-tune for my specific scenarios, drastically reducing the time to insight. And not only that, I can now run it in the distributed processing of Spark on Azure Databricks and make that processing time even faster. But that's not enough. I want to get near real-time insights. That's where Azure Machine Learning Service enables you to deploy your models at the edge. In this case, I'm using this Vision AI camera that's detecting incidents at a gas station. With Azure Machine Learning Service, you can containerize your model and deploy them to the edge and make this intelligent enough to be able to now detect anything that can happen. Now that we've put that together, let's go ahead and see how this works. So let me go back to this dashboard view that the retail site manager had. And let me bring up a cigarette. Now, I'm obliged to say that this is not a real cigarette and that this is not an endorsement of smoking. Having said that, let's go ahead and see what happens when I try to hold the cigarette in front of the camera. So looks like it detected a health and safety breach. So as a retail site manager, I want to know what's happening near the gas station. So not only it's able to detect that there is a danger, it's telling the accuracy with which the danger was detected. So let me go ahead and ensure that I stop the pump right away. And just like that, the danger was averted. And this is the power of bringing data and AI together from the cloud to the edge, all using Azure tools and services. What I was able to do was do a search through the internet for my first data set, do transfer learning on distributed processing, and also deploy my model to the edge, making it intelligent for near real-time safety detection. Hope you enjoyed the power of Spark, and you will go back and try it out. Let me hand it back to Rohan.
Thank you, Deepsha. You know, this stuff is not science fiction. I mean, Shell sort of deployed this today. You know, that sort of brings us to the end of the keynote. Hopefully, you got a glimpse of the way we are investing in custom priorities that are anchored around the frame of our product strategy. There's so much more that, hopefully, as you go through the deeper sessions, you'll see. One thing I will leave you with is, if you look a few years ago, we were just SQL Server, right? And if you take a look at what we have right now in terms of the products and services that we are offering, it's a huge range. This is really because the industry is transforming at this scale. You know, we've been amazing partners for the last 20 years since this organization has existed. Frankly, we are where we are today with Azure Data Services and SQL Server because of you. You've played a very, very key part in helping us graduate to where we are. And I really hope, I sincerely hope we continue to partner very closely. There's so many problems that need to be solved. This whole notion of digital transformation that the enterprises are going through, we are just getting started. And I hope this partnership continues. We are so excited to be working closely with you. We're so excited about PaaS. I hope you guys have a great time, and see you again next year. Thank you.